At a business dinner, my husband Leo's associate leaned close to him and spoke in German. I heard the woman you're seeing is 2 months pregnant, he asked quietly. What are you going to do? Leo just smiled, a small, controlled expression. He carefully poured more wine into my glass and put a piece of steak on my plate before answering his friend, also in German. Clara doesn't like children, he said smoothly. I'll have Sophie keep the baby and raise it somewhere else, out of the country. It can be my legacy. I took a sip of my wine, trying to keep my hand from shaking, but I couldn't stop a single tear from rolling down my face. Leo noticed right away. Clara, why are you crying? He asked, his voice full of concern. I managed a weak smile and lied. It's nothing. The wine is just a little strong. It's making my eyes water. But the wine wasn't strong at all. It was a smooth, low-alcohol red. My tears had nothing to do with the wine. They were because I had understood every single word they said. Leo must have forgotten that I used to be a top German student in college. He had only started learning the language himself to try and impress me back when we first met. As I came back to the present moment, I saw Leo leaning toward me. He rested one arm on the back of my chair, getting close. A couple of buttons on his shirt were undone, and I could see a tiny wine stain on his fingers. He smelled like cedar, a clean scent I used to find comforting. What are you thinking about? He asked, smiling warmly. The light caught his cufflinks, and for a second it flashed in my eyes. I reached for my wine glass, but he stopped me, his hand closing gently over my wrist. His palm felt warm and solid against my skin, and the fabric of his shirt brushed against me. That familiar smell surrounded me. Let me get that, he said. He brought the glass to his own lips and took a sip from the spot where my lips had been. I watched his throat as he swallowed. I could still taste the mint from a cocktail he'd made for me that morning. It felt less like a nice gesture and more like some kind of quiet test. Across the table, another man, David, crushed an almond between his fingers, letting the pieces fall onto his plate. He adjusted his glasses and laughed. You two have been married for years, but you still act like you're on your honeymoon. Suddenly, Leo pressed me back against the fancy carved chair, and that mix of sandalwood and cedar smell was all around me. His fingers traced my jawline, and his wedding ring felt hot against my skin. My wife is a jealous person. You've known that from the beginning, Leo said. His voice was light, but there was a possessive tone underneath it. Deal with it. He whispered the last words as a kiss against my ear. It was his usual style, restrained and elegant, but with an edge of something more dangerous. I turned my head just enough to avoid his mouth, so his lips just grazed my cheek. Yes, I whispered back. I just wanted to make sure the devoted Mr. Thorne— I let his last name hang in the air and saw his jaw tighten out of the corner of my eye— doesn't have a secret girlfriend I don't know about. Leo's eyes narrowed, and he seemed to hold his breath. His knuckles were white. Without any warning, he picked me up and spun me around in a little circle. His expensive shoes slid easily on the shiny floor. There will only ever be one girl for me, he whispered in my ear, his breath hot. I belong to you, he murmured. I gave a small smile and gently got out of his arms. So it was true. Some people really could lie without even blinking. When Leo had proposed to me, I had given him only one condition: loyalty. I had told him, very seriously, if I ever find out that you've cheated on me, I will leave. I will never look back. He had looked at me with so much devotion in his eyes. He took my hand and pressed it to his cheek. Clara, it took me 2 years to win you over. I would never do anything to hurt you. If I ever betray you, may I never find love again for the rest of my life. And it was true. I was talented and confident, and I'd always had men interested in me. From the first time Leo saw me, he was determined to be with me. I had been hurt badly in a previous relationship and was scared of falling in love again, but he was so persistent that he eventually broke down my walls, and I agreed to give him a chance. But 5 months ago, I found out by accident that he was seeing another woman. That discovery destroyed my belief in pure, real love. I thought I would scream and cry and fall apart, but instead I felt strangely calm. I stayed with him, quietly dealing with the pain while I started making plans for my own future. Now there were only 10 days left. In 10 days, my visa would be approved, and I could finally leave Leo and start a new life that was just for me. After dinner, Leo leaned on my shoulder. His breath was warm and smelled like wine. "Sweetheart," he mumbled, "let's go home." Behind us, his friend Mark called out, "Hey, Leo, aren't you coming for karaoke? Everyone's already there waiting for you." But Leo didn't even look back. He kept his arm wrapped tightly around my waist and said firmly, "Not tonight. Clara needs to rest. I'm taking her home." Mark just chuckled, clearly a bit envious, but didn't say anything else. Just then, my phone vibrated in my purse. It was a text message. "Clara Turner, let's make a bet. Will Leo go home with you tonight, or will he come out and be with me?" I just stared at the screen, frozen. Leo noticed I had stopped walking. "What's wrong, love? Why did you stop?" I quickly turned off the screen and tried to sound casual. "Nothing, just a message from the other woman trying to provoke me." His brow furrowed, and he reached for my phone. At that exact moment, his own phone started to ring. It was the special ringtone he had set for Sophie. I calmly held my phone out to him. "Still want to see it?" Leo hesitated, and I saw a flash of panic in his eyes. "Come on, darling," he said, trying to be charming by nuzzling my neck. "You know there's no one else. I only need you, Clara." I gently pushed him away and said in a flat voice, "Go on, answer your phone. It's been ringing for a while." He straightened up, nodded, and said he'd take the call a few steps away. Before he could say anything else, I turned and walked toward our driver, who was waiting by the car. I didn't look back. I could see from the corner of my eye that Leo looked surprised, but then he heard the sweet voice on the other end of the phone, and his expression softened. I looked away and bit my lip hard, trying to fight back the bitter feeling in my chest. I knew deep down that he wouldn't be coming home with me tonight. A few minutes later, another message came. It was from Sophie. "Clara, you lost. Leo cares about me the most." This time, she included a photo of a medical report confirming her pregnancy. And our baby, of course. Leo promised he'd give this child a proper home. He's so excited to be a father. What do you think? Will he divorce you when the time comes? Tears started to well up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't let him see me cry. When Leo came back, he had that familiar, guilty, but tender look on his face. "Clara," he said, taking my hand, "something urgent came up at work. I won't be able to go home with you tonight. I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you as soon as I'm done." I looked at him quietly. "Leo, I feel dizzy tonight. Could you please stay with me instead?" He was the man I had once loved with everything I had. Even with the truth staring me in the face, it was still hard to let go. I thought that if he would just choose to stay with me this one time, maybe I could forgive him. Maybe I could still believe in our marriage. Leo gave me a sad smile and gently patted my head. "Clara, be good. I'll have the family doctor come check on you. As soon as I'm done with work, I promise I'll come right back to you, okay?" He held my face and leaned in for a kiss, but I turned my head away. "I feel dizzy. Go take care of your business." Leo got out of the car. As soon as the door shut, I told the driver to take me home. A moment later, another message arrived. "So, Clara, how does it feel to be abandoned by your husband? If I were you, I'd just step aside gracefully." My stomach lurched. I had to ask the driver to pull over. I got out and held onto a metal railing on the side of the road, throwing up until I felt weak and empty. By 3 in the morning, Leo still hadn't come home. I kept looking at the front door, hoping, but there were no more messages from Sophie either. That could only mean they were together, enjoying their time. I laughed, a hollow sound in the quiet house, and got up from the couch. I went and pulled out all the portraits I had painted of Leo. I had poured so much of myself into them. I remembered how, after we got together, I would sketch him whenever I had a quiet moment. When he smiled, when he was thinking, when he frowned, I captured it all. Every expression of his used to feel like a work of art to me. I used to think that with so much love and care, I had to be the happiest woman in the world. But now, that was all gone. The next morning, I arranged for a courier to deliver some of the portraits to Sophie in 5 days. Since Leo's heart was no longer with me, there was no point in me keeping these paintings that were filled with my love. It seemed right to send them to the person he cared about now. Just as I was about to burn the rest of the paintings, the ones I hadn't packed up, he walked in. He called my name from the entryway. I answered him but didn't stop what I was doing. Hearing my voice, Leo came into the room. The second he saw the paintings and the lighter in my hand, the small cake box he was holding almost fell from his grasp. "Sweetheart," he said, rushing over and kneeling next to me. He gently took my hand. "What are you doing?" I turned to look at him. His face was pale, and his eyes were wide with shock. I pulled my hand away and gave a small smile. "I thought I might try roasting marshmallows over these paintings," I said softly. "I heard they get a special smoky flavor when the fire is fueled by something meaningful." Leo froze, his hand still in the air. He looked completely stunned. "Please," he stammered, "don't joke like that. These paintings are priceless." I looked up at him again, my smile calm and distant. "Priceless," I repeated. "To me, they're just a pile of useless paper now." He leaned in closer, his voice getting louder with panic. "How can you say that? You put your heart into every single one. These paintings are our memories." I lit the corner of another canvas and watched the flames slowly eat away at the image of his face. My voice was quiet, almost peaceful. "There will be new memories, ones that are much more unforgettable." Hearing this, Leo seemed to relax a little. He helped me up and led me to the sofa. "You're right, Clara," he said. "We'll make new memories together, ones that will last forever." He glanced at the paintings still on the floor. "I'll have the housekeeper clean this up. I brought you something. Have some cake." He put the fancy pastry box on the table in front of me. The sweet smell of cream filled the air, but as soon as I smelled it, my stomach turned. The image of him and Sophie together flashed in my mind, and that carefully chosen cake now felt like a cruel joke. "This is your favorite," Leo said, his smile hopeful. "I went out of my way to get it for you." I forced a smile that felt cold even to me. "Thank you." My voice was icy. He looked uncertain and rubbed his hands together, as if he was trying to warm up the cold space between us. "Aren't you going to try it?" he asked. "You always loved this one." I stared at the cake, took a deep breath, and tried to calm myself down. I didn't have the energy to fight with him. "Maybe later," I said simply. Leo's eyes showed his confusion. "Is something wrong, sweetheart? Have your tastes changed?" He hesitated before continuing. "I know what I did yesterday was wrong. There's nothing wrong," I cut him off. "I'm just tired." With that, I stood up and walked to the bedroom. Lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about him and Sophie, but I was too exhausted to cry or confront him. Maybe someday when I felt stronger, I would tell him everything, but not today. A little while later, Leo quietly opened the bedroom door. He put a glass of warm water on the nightstand and said softly, "Sweetheart, please drink a little water." I didn't move or look at him. I just lay there with my back to him. The soft click of the door closing was the sound that finally made my tears fall. I lay still, listening to his footsteps in the living room. Each step felt like a heavy beat against my heart. As the night got deeper, moonlight streamed through the curtains, making broken shadows on the floor. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Maybe Leo sensed it because he came back into the room. He moved quietly to the bed and lay down beside me. He reached out to hold me, but I instinctively moved away. His hand stopped in midair for a moment before he let it drop. The silence between us was heavy, filled only with the sound of our breathing. "Sweetheart," he finally whispered, "please don't be angry anymore." His voice was shaky. I didn't answer. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. He tried again. "I know I've been distant lately, but it's just because of work. Please believe me. You're the only one I care about." Hearing that lie, I felt sick to my stomach again. How could he say that after everything? After seeing I was still not responding, Leo sighed quietly. He got out of bed and walked over to the window. He stood there in silence, looking out at the night. The moonlight lit up his back, making him look like a stranger. A long time passed before he came back to bed. This time, he didn't try to touch me. He just lay there, his presence a quiet weight beside me. I could feel him looking at me, but I never turned to meet his gaze. The next morning, sunlight crept into the room. I opened my eyes, and the space next to me was empty. Leo was already gone. I went out to the living room and found a warm breakfast on the table with a note written in his familiar handwriting. "Honey, I went to work. Remember to eat breakfast." I stared at the note, feeling a mix of bitterness and confusion. I sat down and ate, but the food tasted like cardboard. After I finished, I knew what I had to do. It was time to find Sophie. It was time to end all of this. That afternoon, I sat in a quiet cafe, waiting for Sophie to arrive. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, making patterns on the floor. Soon the door opened, and a tall, perfectly made-up woman walked in. Sophie was wearing an expensive dress and had a smug look on her face. Her eyes were full of challenge as she walked over and sat down across from me. She crossed her arms and smirked. "So, why did you want to see me? Have you finally decided to give Leo to me?" I looked at her calmly. My voice was quiet but steady when I replied, "Yes, I have decided to leave Leo." For a second, Sophie looked genuinely surprised, but the look disappeared quickly. She leaned back and laughed, a high-pitched sound. "Well, at least you're not as stupid as I thought," she said. "Let me tell you, Leo stopped loving you a long time ago. He loves me, and he loves the child I'm carrying." I felt a wave of disgust, but I kept my expression neutral. I took a breath and said, "If that's the case, then there's no reason for me to stay. I wish you both the best." Sophie scoffed. "We'll be just fine. But don't think you're getting any of Leo's money. Everything belongs to me and this baby." I managed a small, soft smile. "I don't care about the money. I just want to be free. I want a new start." Her eyes widened as she stared at me, completely thrown off. "Are you crazy? That money is yours. You're really just going to walk away from it?" I shook my head slowly, the exhaustion I felt deep in my heart showing in my voice. "Money doesn't matter to me anymore. I've already lost too much in this marriage. Now it's time for me to find myself again." Sophie looked at me as if I were a puzzle she couldn't solve. She couldn't seem to understand why someone would choose peace over money. "You're weird," she said finally, "but it doesn't matter. Leo is mine now." I looked at her triumphant face, and I didn't feel angry. I just felt a deep, quiet sadness. I once thought Leo and I would grow old together, but that dream was gone. "Congratulations," I said softly. "You got what you wanted." My voice was flat, as if I were talking about someone else's life. Sophie beamed, placing her hands on her stomach. "Thank you. When the baby is born, the three of us will be the happiest family." I didn't say anything. My heart felt heavy. I had once dreamed of having a child with Leo, a child we would raise in a house full of love. But that was all gone now. "I hope you find happiness," I said, offering a faint smile. Sophie narrowed her eyes. "Save your fake kindness. Do you think I'm grateful to you?" I ignored her comment and just looked out the window at the people walking by on the street, each lost in their own world. I realized it was time for me to start living my own life again. I stood up slowly. "By the way," I said calmly, "please keep an eye on Leo for the next few days. I'd rather he didn't show up at my door." Sophie grinned smugly. "Don't worry, Leo will stay with me. After all, I'm the one he loves now." I didn't say anything else. I just turned and walked out. As the sunlight hit my shoulders, I felt a weight lift from me, a feeling of freedom I hadn't felt in a very long time. But when I got home, that feeling disappeared. I collapsed onto the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling. The image of Sophie's triumphant face kept playing in my mind, each time feeling like a fresh cut. The silence in the house was deafening, and the ticking of the clock seemed to get louder with every second, marking the time in my empty life. I don't know how long I sat there before the sound of a key in the lock broke the silence. Leo walked in looking tired and worn out. When he saw me curled up on the sofa, his tired eyes lit up. He walked over to me quietly as if he were afraid of scaring me. He knelt down beside me. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "why are you sitting here in the dark? Is something wrong?" He reached up and turned on a lamp, and the soft light filled the room but didn't touch the darkness inside me. I looked up at him and forced a weak smile that probably looked more like I was about to cry. "I'm fine," I said, my voice hoarse. "Just tired." Leo looked at me with deep concern and a flicker of guilt in his eyes. He reached out to touch my forehead, but I pulled away. His hand froze in the air and he looked hurt, but then he sighed and sat back. He took my hand instead. His fingers were warm and familiar, but his touch gave me no comfort. It felt like a stranger was holding my hand. He spoke again, his voice trembling a little. "Is it because I've been so focused on work? Have I neglected you? I'm sorry, I really am. Once I get through this busy period, I'll stop working so much. I'll stay home with you. We can go to the movies or for a walk, whatever you want." He stroked the back of my hand, his eyes full of hope, like a child asking for forgiveness. Looking at his tender face, a knot tightened in my chest. I used to love this man so much. His smile could make my whole day better. But now he had chosen someone else, started a life with someone else. I pushed the pain down and said calmly, "There's no need. You should focus on your work. I can take care of myself." His brow furrowed with worry. He stood up, walked a few steps away, then turned back, looking frustrated and helpless. A moment later, he came back and knelt beside me again, putting his hands on my shoulders. "Clara," he said firmly, "please don't say that. Nothing is more important to me than you. I know I haven't shown it lately and I've made mistakes. But if something is bothering you, please tell me. Yell at me. Just don't keep it inside. It breaks my heart to see you like this." His voice cracked, and I could see tears in his eyes. Seeing him in pain just made my own pain worse. I pulled away from him. "I told you I'm fine. I just need some time alone." Leo sighed heavily, his eyes full of disappointment. He stood up and went to sit on the other end of the sofa. The room was silent again. I stared out the window into the night, my thoughts a tangled mess. I picked up my phone and sent Sophie a message. "Find a way to get Leo to come to you." A few seconds later, Leo's phone, which was on the coffee table, started to vibrate. The screen lit up with the word "office." He glanced at me, then grabbed the phone. He hesitated for a second before flipping it face down on the table. But the phone kept ringing, persistent and sharp. Leo's expression grew darker with each ring. Sweat started to form on his forehead and his fingers twitched. I sat there and watched him, feeling a mix of irony and sadness. This was the man I had once trusted completely, and now he was panicking over a call from another woman. Finally, I spoke, my voice cold and steady. "Answer it." Leo looked at me shocked, his face pale with guilt. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. He slowly picked up the phone and answered. "Hello?" he said, his voice tense. I could hear Sophie's playful tone on the other end. I couldn't hear her words, but based on Leo's apologetic glances at me, she was probably asking for something. He got up and walked out to the balcony, his voice softening. "What happened? Are you feeling unwell? Did you go to the doctor? You need to be more careful. Is the baby all right?" The tenderness in his voice made my stomach churn. When the call was over, he came back inside, watching my face carefully. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he said, looking sheepish. "Something urgent came up at work. As soon as I'm done, I'll make it up to you, I promise." I looked at him calmly. "All right, go take care of it." Leo seemed surprised by how calm I was. He reached out to hug me, but I stepped back. "You should go," I said quietly. "The baby is important." Leo's face went white. "Darling, please, let me explain. This..." He stood there, unable to form a sentence. "It's all right," I said, my voice gentle but distant. "She's a client, right? A little concern is normal." I even helped him come up with an excuse. He must have sensed that something was seriously wrong because he suddenly lunged forward and hugged me tightly. I'm sorry, my love. I really do love you. With that, he grabbed his coat and left without looking back. I didn't waste any time. I called my lawyer and asked him to draw up divorce papers. That night, as the city lights began to twinkle, I sat alone on the sofa, waiting for Leo to come back. Time passed slowly. Eventually, I heard keys at the door. Leo stumbled in, smelling strongly of alcohol. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair was a mess, and his eyes were glassy. He saw me on the sofa and tried to smile. "Babe, I'm home," he slurred. I got up and helped him before he could fall, his body leaning heavily on me. "Work. So much work. Drank too much with clients," he muttered. I looked at the man in front of me with nothing but disappointment. I helped him to the sofa and got him a glass of water. He took it but spilled some on his shirt, smiling sheepishly like a kid who'd been caught doing something wrong. I took a deep breath, then bent down and pulled a document out from under the coffee table. I placed it in front of him. "Here, sign this," I said calmly. Leo squinted at the paper. "What's this?" he mumbled. I swallowed hard and answered casually. "Something from the office. I already checked it. It's nothing important, just sign it. They need it first thing in the morning." He didn't ask any more questions. He picked up the pen and shakily signed his name. After he was done, he dropped the pen and leaned back, closing his eyes. I looked down at the signed divorce papers and a quiet wave of joy went through me. I kept my face calm, carefully folded the document, and put it away safely. I glanced at Leo, passed out on the sofa. This marriage had been a long, bitter nightmare, and now I finally had the key to wake up. Holding the signed agreement, my heart started to calm down for the first time in a long time. But my visa wouldn't be ready for 2 more days, and I needed to keep Leo calm until then. I had to be careful. For some reason, Leo became incredibly clingy over those 2 days. He followed me everywhere. In the morning, while I was making breakfast, he would wrap his arms around my waist from behind and rest his chin on my shoulder. "You make the best breakfast," he'd mumble. At night, if I was watching TV on the couch, he would sit so close I could barely move, holding my hand and refusing to let go. Inside, I was so anxious I felt like I was about to explode. I couldn't risk anything going wrong before my visa was approved. I had no choice but to text Sophie again. "Keep Leo busy, don't let him hang around the house." She replied quickly, her message full of mockery. Well, well, looks like the tired little wife needs my help. How pathetic. Fine, for Leo's sake, I'll do it. Then she sent me a series of photos of her and Leo, smiling together, his arm around her waist, his eyes full of affection. My heart tightened, but I forced myself to stay calm. Soon after, Leo's phone rang. He looked at it, then at me, hesitating. I gave him a soft smile. "You should go. Work is important." Leo nodded and went to change his clothes. As he was about to leave, he turned back. "Sweetheart," he said, "my birthday is in a week. Did you get me a present?" I smiled warmly. "Of course, it's all ready. Now go to work. You'll get your surprise on your birthday." Satisfied, he left. Once he was gone, I let out a long breath. I knew the next 2 days were critical. Only after I had my visa could I finally be free. The day before my visa was due, I got the message I'd been waiting for. It was approved. My hands trembled as I read the text. It felt like freedom was finally here. I had one last thing to do before I could leave Leo for good. I went to the women's hospital. The sharp, sterile smell of the place filled my lungs. I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart. Just then, Sophie appeared around a corner. I instinctively turned to walk away, but she had already seen me and was walking toward me, her heels clicking confidently on the floor. She folded her arms and looked me up and down with contempt. "Well, look who it is," she said with a sneer. "The Baron Queen herself. What's the matter? Hoping to cure your little infertility problem?" Her shrill voice echoed in the hallway. I looked at her, my face calm. Her insults didn't bother me anymore, but my mind drifted back to a memory I had tried to bury. A while ago, I had lost a child in an accident I was in while rushing to help Leo. That day left me with more than just physical scars. It left me unable to have children. I had told Leo I never wanted kids, that I just didn't like them. Only I knew the painful truth. But now, with him and Sophie together, none of it mattered. Sophie, thinking her words had hurt me because I was silent, became even more smug. She followed me, her voice sharp and relentless. What? Nothing to say? You know this is your fate. You can't even give him a child. Sooner or later, Leo is going to get tired of you. Her words were meant to be like knives, but my heart was already numb. I kept walking toward the doctor's office, my back straight. Sophie wouldn't stop. She kept muttering cruel things behind me, but her voice sounded distant, like a hum from another world. I had already tuned her out. Finally, I walked into the consultation room and sat down. I calmly explained my situation to the doctor. He listened, nodding, and then began to arrange the procedure. Are you absolutely sure you want to go through with this? He asked gently. I met his eyes and nodded firmly. Yes, I've thought it through. Just then, Sophie burst into the room. Her eyes were wide with disbelief. Are you insane? She screamed. This is Leo's baby. If you just tell him, I'm sure he'd come back to you. How can you be so stupid? I turned to face her, my expression calm. No, I said, shaking my head slowly. The moment he chose to be with you, I knew I could never forgive him. This child shouldn't be brought into a world of betrayal and pain. Sophie froze, stunned into silence. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I stood up. I'm leaving tomorrow night, I told her. Make sure Leo stays by your side. Sophie stared at me for a moment, then, after a few seconds of calculation, she nodded. I smiled faintly. Thank you, I said, then turned and left. Clara, Sophie called after me, her voice confused. Why don't you hate me? After all, I stopped and turned slightly. Leo is the one who was unfaithful, I said steadily. He was the one who crossed the line. Once loyalty is gone, it's hard to get back. Even if it wasn't you, Sophie, one day it would have been someone else. Love, once it fades, is like a wilted flower. No matter how much you water it, it won't bloom again. So why should I blame you? Sophie looked at me, stunned. I'll keep him with me, she muttered. If you're leaving, make sure you're gone for good. Don't ever come back. All right, I replied, and she did. Sophie kept Leo busy. One evening, I got a text from Leo. Sweetheart, things at work have been crazy. I'm so busy, but I'm always thinking of you. Please eat well and get enough rest. I want to come home to you as soon as I can. His message was full of affection, but to me it was just a lie. As if she was afraid I'd change my mind, Sophie started sending me her own texts. Look at this photo. Leo looks so relaxed with me. You're a joke. He feels nothing for you anymore. He needs me, not you. Each message was like a poisoned arrow, but I stayed calm. I saved the photos to a flash drive. Then I laid out the signed divorce papers and the report from the clinic. They were the final chapter of our broken story. I would wait until Leo's birthday to give him my gift. The next day, I dragged my suitcase to the airport. When Leo got home, he expected to find me waiting for him, but the house was strangely quiet. There was no sign of me. He froze in the doorway, confused. Then a sharp panic hit him. He called my name, his voice echoing through the empty rooms. He started searching frantically, tearing through drawers and closets, but he found nothing. He pulled out his phone, his fingers trembling as he dialed my number. It rang and rang, but I never answered. Nearby, Sophie watched him with a smug grin. Henry, she said with fake sympathy, sometimes I feel so sorry for you. You work so hard, and when you come home, she's always picking fights. She's so immature. Leo was already on edge, and her words pushed him over. He turned, his eyes blazing, and shoved her aside. You're nothing but a toy, he shouted. How dare you speak badly of her? He swept everything off a nearby table. Plates crashed, books scattered, and in the corner he saw something I had left for him. He rushed over and picked it up with trembling hands. He opened it slowly. The first thing he saw was the signed divorce agreement. Then came the abortion report. His eyes widened in disbelief. I had been pregnant. I had been carrying his child, and now it was gone. Then he saw the flash drive. He plugged it into his computer, and photos of him and Sophie appeared on the screen, intimate photos that felt like a stab in the eyes. He turned to Sophie, furious. Where did these photos come from? Why did Clara see them? Sophie stumbled toward him, trying to hug him. Leo, I know I was wrong, but I did it because I love you. I was scared people would call our baby illegitimate. Leo shoved her to the ground. Your baby? He shouted. That was Clara's baby. Do you really think having a child means you can marry me? Stop dreaming. Your child will never be mine. At best, it would have been Clara's adopted child. And you are nothing but a tool. Sophie lay on the floor, staring up at him in disbelief. No, it can't be. You loved me. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through her stomach. She cried out, clutching her belly. Leo, please call an ambulance. My stomach hurts. Leo just stood there, his eyes cold. You deserve this, he said quietly. You brought this on yourself. Let me be clear, you and that child together are not worth a single hair on Clara's head. You better pray she's safe. If anything happens to her, I'll make you regret it. Without another word, he turned and left, leaving her writhing in pain on the floor. As soon as my plane landed, my best friend was there waiting for me. She rushed forward and gave me a tight hug. I've missed you so much, she whispered. I can't believe you're finally here. She held my hands, her gaze warm. You're finally here. That's all that matters. I tried to smile. I missed you too, I said. If this marriage hadn't fallen apart, I don't know when I would have come to visit. The ache in my heart was still there. What I thought was happiness had just been a dream. With my friend's help, I started to adjust to my new life. The sadness that had been weighing me down slowly started to lift. But my past wasn't finished with me. Leo was still looking for me, not knowing I had changed my name and was living far away. As for Sophie, she lost the baby and was told she could never have children again. Devastated, she blamed Leo for everything. One day, she waited for him on the road he took to work and drove her car straight into his. Leo was critically injured and fell into a coma. When he woke up, he learned he would never walk again. His parents managed to find me and asked me to visit him, hoping it might help. The memories of his betrayal were still painful, but I remembered how kind his parents had always been. For their sake, I decided to go back one last time. When I walked into the hospital room, Leo was in a wheelchair with his back to the door. He looked smaller, hunched over. When he heard the door, he slowly turned his head. He looked surprised to see me, then quickly looked away like a child who had been caught doing something wrong. I walked toward him, and the room was filled with a thick, uneasy silence. With his head down, he spoke in a quiet, hoarse voice. You came. I took a steadying breath. Yes, I came to see how you are. His lips trembled. After a pause, he said, Look at me now. I'm not the man you once knew. You deserve better. I hope you have a peaceful and happy life. His words were calm, but I could hear the sadness beneath them. I looked at him, and strangely, the love and hate I used to feel were gone. All that was left was something more complicated and quiet. What's done is done, I said softly. Just take care of yourself. From the corner of the room, his parents watched us with tears in their eyes. His mother came over and took my hand. Dear, we owe you so much, she said, her voice trembling. What Leo did was wrong. If you ever need anything, please let us know. Looking at this kind woman, I felt a quiet warmth. Please don't say that, I said gently. It's all in the past. After leaving the hospital, I walked alone down the long hallway. Sunlight poured through the windows. I closed my eyes and let the warmth sink in. A strange sense of peace settled over me. That broken marriage had felt like a storm, but now, looking back, I realized it had made me stronger. I had survived. Back in my new country, I threw myself into my new life. I took art and yoga classes, found new hobbies, and made new friends. The pain of the past slowly faded with time. One day I was in my studio painting a seascape. My best friend came in and watched me for a moment. "You look amazing," she said, smiling. "You're glowing." I paused and smiled back with quiet confidence. "Yes," I said. "After everything, I've finally learned how to let go. From now on, I'm living for myself." In this new place, I was writing a new chapter of my life, one full of color and hope. I knew it wouldn't always be easy, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I had stepped out of the shadows and into the light. That failed marriage had become a part of my story, a part that taught me that only by facing the past can you truly embrace the future. As the days went by, my life became more stable. I found joy in my art and comfort in my quiet daily routine. One warm afternoon, my friend and I were sitting at a seaside cafe. "You've really changed," she said. "You're more independent, more confident. You finally know how to love yourself." I smiled and nodded. "Yes. After everything I've been through, I owe myself that much. I'm going to enjoy every moment of my life." The sea sparkled in the sun. On the horizon, sailboats drifted peacefully. As I looked out at the vast, open water, my heart filled with a quiet hope. I knew my life would be like the sea, sometimes calm and sometimes rough, but always moving forward. And with courage, I would keep walking toward my own happiness no matter what.